We have a boy from a Gen Z from Belfast who's playing an American. We have a Czech, Filipino, Hawaiian girl playing a Norma Desmond part. We have a non-binary person that is playing Mary Todd Lincoln, an Australian who's playing a man and several other men. Jonathan Groff, like, a good old gay farm boy from Pennsylvania playing Bobby Darren. A black girl from Fresno and like a white passing Asian American as a robot. Like, what the fuck is going on here? That's incredible.
Thank you for joining us for the Hollywood Reporter's 2025 Tony's Roundtable. We have 7 outstanding performers from the 2024-2025 Broadway season. I want to begin by asking you about something that predates these shows, and that is if you can tell us somebody without whom you would not be able to do 8 shows a week as a person and a performer without losing your mind. And not just do 8 shows a week, which many people do, but to do it at the caliber that you are doing it, to be Tony nominees.
I think anybody here with kids has to give full, unbridled credit to our partners because it's a Herculean task to be a parent and to be a present one, but to also have the commitment that doing a Broadway show demands.
Well, one of our directors, Justin Martin, when he was working with Tom Holland on Billy Elliot, and one of the things he realized quickly was with working with these young kids, it's important that the kids know where their compliments lie and the truth or the fakeness of them, and really being able to kind of weed out how that makes sense to you and how it can make your job better. And I think as an actor, when my job is easier, my life's easier. You know, it goes hand in hand. So Justin really just kind of told me a lot of the time, and you know, trust the people you trust and don't lose those people if they tell you you're crap. You know, believe that. You know, you have to, because then it makes everything else make sense. You need a yin yang. You can't just be people blowing smoke up your, you know, whatever, all day, every day. Because, you get a lot of that, you know. And he's been one of the people who really kind of stepped up as, like, when I moved away from home, you know, kind of stepping up as like a family director and being there for me as a bro and just hanging out and keeping me going through the hard times, you know, just as the human nature side of things, because you know, I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody knows what we're doing. You know, we're just having fun. And he's one of those people who kind of just kept me grounded and told me always, you know, seek out the truth and, you know, really remember that.
Yeah. Audra, I've heard that you may have a tattoo and a daughter that.
Oh yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of actually. Zoe Caldwell, who I did master class with in 1996, and. I didn't know what I was doing. I was very frightened about working with her because she was such, you know, grand lady of the theater and one of the greatest actresses of the theater. And she ended up becoming such a mentor that I named my daughter after her. And what I learned from Zoe and watching how disciplined she was about each performance, about the preparation for each performance every single night, about knowing everybody's name at the theater, knowing every stage door's name, person's name, knowing all of the people in the front of the house, making sure that she was thanking everybody on a nightly basis. And by the time I would get to the theater, she was already fully dressed in costume. So you'd walk up the stairs, you'd pass her dressing room first. She was already fully dressed as Maria Callas going, "Mama, Mama, there's our Audra." And she was just already there. And I thought I was getting there at a fairly decent time. She had me beat. And from that, I've, you know, purposely and also just, I think, just sort of letting it come in, you know, just by watching, I have adapted a lot of her methods. One of which is making sure that I'm at the theater like a good 3 hours before. I'm not necessarily fully in costume just because I sweat too much, but just to make sure that I am there, I'm feeling the theater, I know everybody's name. As she says it, I don't want the train to be about to take off. and I'm just getting to the theater. I'm going to be the one to make sure that the train is ready to go.
I'm thinking of our choreographer, Shannon Lewis, of Just in Time. We did a workshop. She's a prolific Broadway dancer. She's done 10 shows as a dancer. This is her choreographic debut. And
Shannon.
I know, right? Go Shannon.
Yeah, she's the best.
She's the best, yeah. And we did a workshop of the show last summer, and I've never really danced before like this. And I was like, Shannon, how am I gonna? And she was like, I got you. And she gave me 10 weeks of dance lessons, 3 times a week before the first day of rehearsal. And she taught me her physical, this like 30-minute physical warm-up of 5 different songs that she has on a playlist. And I do it every day before doing the show. And I have like the gift of being able to express my body through like the cells that woke up my feet. Suddenly I'm in touch with my feet and my hands in a way that I never have been before. And if she didn't give me that training, I would have broken something by now. So I'm so grateful to her. She also taught me like how to work energy with a hat and how to use my fingers and the water coming off the center of the thing. It was like a whole college education I never had.
Could have fooled me. I thought it was so natural. I was like, God, this man knows how to work a hat.
It's all Shannon. It's all Shannon.
Darren's wife.
She gets that a lot.
Everything. But actually, I do watch a lot of just interviews with theater actors and like Marion Seldes and Enzo Caldwell. There's this great interview for Women in Theater where she's just telling this anecdote about when she stepped in for Anne Bancroft in The Devils. And she's just recalling a line off the cuff, and she turns her head, and she goes right into character. And it's like, the lights don't actually change, but you feel like there's a lighting change and like a temperature drop. And it was really, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. Feel them. But it really reminded me like, oh, it's just about like having immediate and like free access to your imagination. That's all it is. It's just like being able to like go right there. It was just so, but I'm meanwhile I'm in bed just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah. So I'm Darren's wife, Enzo Caldwell.
I think in terms of like preparation to get to this point, probably the voice coach that I worked with in Australia, Geraldine Cook, who really like, because I hadn't done theatre for 6 years maybe, not since 2016, and needed to get my instrument back into shape to get the athleticism going for this particular show, and in so many different characters and talking for 2 hours straight at a high level, yelling and quiet and all of that. And she was really instrumental in creating the soundscape and the physical placement of where those characters go in my mouth, in my resonance, everywhere, to be able to switch on them quickly and to also know that I can have something to go back on when in the 10th week and you're like, my voice is shot. What am I gonna do? And it's pretty, to be honest, because of her, been pretty sustainable, I think.
What helps you to do the grilling schedule, it's not necessarily a person for me, it's a higher power.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I was kind of leaning in, because it's just, it's so much bigger than me. And as we all know, it is a lot, so it has to come from, I have to conjure that up from another place. So maybe I'd have to say a higher power and my ancestors.
Totally legit.
My ancestors
Yeah.
before me.
Yeah.
Only just to save myself from this, because there is a mentor.
I was going to say Darren Criss is good. That's a big one.
But you rescind your wife, though, right?
Yeah, sorry. She's
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, Nicole's going to give better justice.
Right.
Just because we've talked about the word that I love talking about in performing, which is the instrument, the proverbial instrument, which is not just singing, it's the body, it's the mask, it's the face, all the stuff that you talk about in drama school or just in general when you're performing. It's the full package, right? At the University of Michigan, I had a movement professor by the name of Malcolm Tulip. We talked about this.
Yeah.
This got cut out of
I remember Malcolm.
Yes. And this was the first time in my life as a drama student, like 19, 18 years old, where I'm being presented with things that, I guess a lot of theater students would know, mime and clown and Lecoq and all these other sort of schools of thought. I know exactly. It's hard not. I teed it up for Cole. I was waiting for it. That took longer than I thought.
I know. I was trying not to.
Yeah. But a lot of physical disciplines that I didn't know would sort of unlock this larger interest that I would have for physical theater.
You went to Italy, right?
And I ended up going to Italy for a little bit. I ended up studying there at a school that was dedicated to commedia dell'arte, and that's where I would be making masks and studying and all kinds of different languages, stuff that was really involved in physical theater. And this was just a niche interest for me that I never thought would come up in any other realm in my life. So I have to give credit to Malcolm Tulip for unlocking that interest, and then cut to, a long time later, 15-something plus years later, 20 years later nearly, I would find myself in a situation where I could call upon these interests and skill sets that he kind of introduced to me.
Cole, from what I understand, you'd been thinking about Mary Todd Lincoln, doing something about her for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Why Mary Todd Lincoln? What was going on in those intervening 15 years? It is a portrait that is, you are the first to say, largely ahistorical, but also very hysterical. Enough so to be nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for drama, which is no small thing.
Didn't win. But it's fine.
I think they prefer Pulitzer Prize loser.
Yes, Pulitzer Prize loser. Yeah.
But this idea of Mary Todd Lincoln, who is an aspiring or frustrated wannabe cabaret performer, depressed and alcoholic, where does this come from over those 15 years?
I don't know. I don't know. I had the idea of what if Abraham Lincoln's assassination was a good thing for Mary Todd? And it's really a story about someone with a dream that everyone around her thinks is stupid. And that's how I felt. And that's how I felt about this idea. And so it's very meta to be doing this show that's like, I think I have something special, and if you just give me a chance, I think you'll believe me. And that's Mary's story, and then that's my story with the show.
And Norma's story.
And Norma's story, and Rose's story.
That becomes very universal, very human.
I think so.
I think that's probably what people recognize when they come. I mean, I haven't seen your show yet. I've heard brilliant things about you. I think people come and they're laughing hysterically, but they're also at the same time recognizing something very human.
I really, really hope so. I really hope so. And I hope my goal going into it was like, because my deep fear or my belief about myself is that I'm unredeemingly annoying. Can you root for someone who's completely annoying? Like no redeeming qualities. Can you have the audience on her side by the end? That was my hope. And
Audra, at the age of 10, I heard you were part of a production, a dinner theater in Fresno production of Gypsy.
Yes.
Did you ever think?
Yes, I was one of Uncle Jocko's kiddies.
Wow. I mean, along the way, was it even a aspiration? Was it even that you might be a part of a Broadway production? Where did the idea that led to this come from?
Gavin Creel. Mm-hmm. Gavin Creel, the wondrous friend to many of us here, or if you're not, you just knew who he was. He was a very dear friend of mine, dear friend of our families, and it was a Thanksgiving dinner. And at our house, I think I had just had Sally. I did. I just had my little one. Yes, because he also brought Sarah Bareilles to dinner, to Thanksgiving dinner in our house, and my daughter was a big fan. This you don't need to know this.
This
but this
is
is just
good.
this.
This is good, yeah.
So what I think
What we're doing at this
no, wait, but it doesn't sound like it's not name dropping. It sounds like it is, but it's not. It's not. Gavin is family, and Sarah is family to Gavin. So Gavin brought Sarah, and my daughter was obsessed with Sarah. So this is just to show you who Gavin is. At one point, Gavin kind of said to my older daughter, "Why don't you go sit next to her? Why don't you go talk to her? Go talk to her. Go talk to her." And so Gavin encouraged her to start to have a conversation with Sarah. And then as I was nursing Sally upstairs, I heard Sarah and Zoe at the piano. And Zoe plays the bass. My daughter plays the bass. So they were playing Who Made You King of Anything. And Sarah was playing it on the piano and Zoe was playing on the bass. And Gavin kind of facilitated that. So I ran downstairs with a baby attached to my, just trying to take pictures and feed the baby. It's so beautiful. And then, in a Gavin way, "Oh, honey, I want to talk to you about something. I want to talk to you about something. Come here. So then he drags me into the garage and tells me he has this idea that I should play Rose and Gypsy.
Wow.
And that's where that started.
What an artist.
So it's,
Yeah.
but it's a tribute to Gavin, but it's to show you who he is. I still think he's with us.
Yeah.
And so he's the one who put it in my head.
I remember seeing you in Shuffle Along and thinking the same thing, or just thinking like, "Oh, she's ready for Rose."
Really?
Yeah.
Pregnant and shuffle along.
Doing those kicks.
Yeah.
But you were,
Yeah.
but
That's so funny.
And then that was George also, right?
George,
So
well, I knew he was the
perfect.
only one that,
Yeah.
that could help me take this journey
Yeah.
or guide me in the right way, especially because we didn't want it to be color blind casting.
Jonathan, you play Bobby Darren, the great entertainer who died far too young. I think you're covering the ages of 19 to 31-ish, largely.
specialty.
37,
And he
yeah.
passes at 37. But
Yeah.
your association with this goes back also quite a few years. I heard to maybe 2018. Can you connect the dots from then to now?
Yeah, 8 years ago, Ted Chapin asked me to do a night of Bobby Darin music at the 92nd Street Y. And sort of like you, Cole, like a part of my inspiration too as an artist is watching clips of divas singing.
Yeah.
Two that are here. And I was like, I went home and I watched Bobby Darin performing on YouTube. And I had this like reaction that I normally feel like when I watch Barbara or Judy or Beyonce. It's usually reserved for a female performer, but he was singing for his life. And then I started learning about him and reading books about him and understanding that he was told he was going to die by the time he was 16, and from 16 to 37 was all borrowed time for him. Wow. And is a reflection of the primal way that he's like leaping in these black and white clips off of my computer screen. So then, yeah, became obsessed and read this quote that he was that at the end of the day he was a nightclub animal, which is now a line at the end of our show, like the cabaret, like the in your show, it's like Mary Todd in her cabaret. That's what he was like. I got to play the Copa. And so then I asked Alex Timbers, who's famous for incredible director, famous for transforming spaces, and he got lit by the idea. And then we did this thing at the Y, and it felt there's something, I think because he was such an electric live performer that, like, by all accounts he was this Oscar-nominated actor and Grammy-winning singer, but everything you read about him, they say, but when he was at the center of a nightclub floor, it was everything. And at the Y, we started doing his music live, which was really fun when we were learning it and rehearsing it, but then all of a sudden, in the space between audience and performer, it felt spiritual, it felt like fire. And then for the last 7.5 years, we've been trying to make it happen.
That's great. Nicole, the world, I guess, first got to know you through the Pussycat Dolls. This is 2003 to 2010, I think, when you guys were together. But but you know, from what I've read and heard, your interest and involvement with theater predated that, and this was just, I guess, in the years since then. There's been this kind of quest to get back to that. And in fact, I was in LA in 2022 and invited to something at the Pendry Hotel, which I wasn't sure what was behind the event, but I was thrilled to get to go. And this was
You went.
and this was a thing that you were doing, and you did, I think, in a few places. I now understand, to try to show that you wanted to kind of find a place back in theater. So can you just explain how, this has been quite a roller coaster from the Pussycat Dolls to Broadway?
I got my first job when I was about 14 at the Actors Theater of Louisville, in Louisville, Kentucky, which for Louisville, Kentucky, that's big time, y'all. That's real big time. And I was in a youth performing arts high school. That's where I found my kind, my tribe. I always felt like since I was a little girl, I just really didn't fit in and didn't really feel comfortable in my skin. But then I went to this performing arts school and I was like, oh my gosh, these humans are just like me. I first started out in voice and learned to read music and singing in the choir, and then I went to musical theater, and then I went to college for theater. And then you kind of learn like singing and dancing around that. So in school, Ms. Mateus, she cast me as Alice when I was 15, and that was big time for me because obviously, I'm like 87 now, but back then, like people didn't cast roles like that, and I was like, yo, you casting a Hawaiian, Ukrainian, Filipino girl as Alice, and so that really gave...
Alice in Wonderland?
In Alice in Wonderland, our music.
Alice
Sorry.
doesn't live here anymore.
Yes. So that's where my love affair began with musical theater, and I went on to college and to do a lot more musical theater, and then I did summer stock in many different places around the country. And so, yes, this is over 30 years in the making, and in the Dolls, we have a song called When I Grow Up. I want to be famous. So we were shooting that music video on Hollywood Boulevard in front of the Pantages, and there's actually a video where I go, one day I always thought I'd end up on that side of the street, and then it pans to the Pantages with Wicked. And I've got this crazy hot pink outfit on and I look crazy doing the video, but I was like, but that's okay, one day I'll make it back home. I was fortunate enough to do Rent at the Hollywood Bowl, I think like 10 years ago. Neil Patrick Harris directed it and had a beautiful cast attached, and then I was fortunate to do Annie Live, the musical, so I was like, okay, they're able to see me, but what you had seen was at that time in around 2017, 18, I was like, can I please audition for things? And people wouldn't even allow me to audition. So I was like, okay, well, obviously they don't know this side of me and I need to educate them. So I created my own show and I put it on in London, and I started out here in New York at the Django and in LA. And I was like, I'm just gonna put it on myself and invite people to come. And it was my love. It was all the roles that I wanted to be cast and all the songs I wanted to sing. And I was like, well, no one can stop me from singing them, breathing my own life into this music, which is my best way I know how to communicate. So why don't I just create my own show? And that's what I did, and that's what you saw.
Well, and it obviously achieved your objective because Andrew Lloyd Webber and Jamie Lloyd, I guess, approached you about this. I know you've said and can now laugh about, is this a great compliment or a great insult to be asked to play Norma Desmond? But I think the ultimate compliment came after you did that, because we have Andrew Lloyd Webber himself saying that your performance as Norma is the best thing he's ever seen in anything he's ever been a part of, which is quite high praise. So we'll go from there to...
He didn't see me in Cats.
That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which is fine, that's fine.
He didn't see Cole in Cats.
Stipulated. Darren, Oliver, retired helper bot, a human-like AI robot in Seoul in the late 21st century, mid to late 21st century. This is a character living in an apartment building for other retired AI creatures like himself, but a truly original musical. There's no IP or anything preceding this show. How did it even first get on your radar, and that you wound up being the person to bring it to Broadway?
Well, first of all, I don't envy you having to. I mean, trying to describe it, it does defy description, which is very exciting, because I think all the greatest stories that we have in our culture are very hard to explain without them being hugely popular. Yes, it is fun to be part of something so singular. It's the first time I've ever been able to do that. I've gone in for roles that I went after Jonathan for Little Shop, and part of shows that already were wonderful way before I got there and would have continued to be wonderful if I had never touched them. The ability to be in something that is so singular to itself is a great new privilege of mine, and I was telling Audra, I name drop her every night when people come by and say hello, because I say I don't envy the Herculean task, I've used that word now twice, the insane task that Audra has, which first of all, it's over 3 hours of you ripping your soul out vocally, emotionally, mentally, all these things. But because it's such a known piece, people come in with comparison or expectation, which ain't fair to her.
Singing along.
And it's singing along, exactly. Which is its own kind of wonderful thing, it's a different task. And because I've done shows like Little Shop or Headway where people know the material, this can also be an obstacle and something that you have to, I would say, overcome, for better or for worse, and but the nice thing is they love Gypsy, so now that's their gateway to Audra's, version of this. For me, I've never been a part of anything where the audience has been completely dilated because they're unencumbered by expectation or experience. So that in itself is an obstacle, because now I have to try and convince you that this is something somewhat worthwhile. But it is amazing to feel just the gasp of what is going on, which I've never gotten to feel, because people are usually, I know this one, this is sweet, oh, I remember this. And so it's getting that, to win over a new sense of familiarity with people and to get them emotionally dilated to experience something new is really great. But in short, this came to me also in 2018, and it was just a matter of being available, and things like the pandemic and the strike and so many things that happened where I finally, the stars aligned in a way that I'm so grateful for, and now I'm here.
That's great.
There you go.
Great. Sarah, the picture of Dorian Gray, this is Oscar Wilde's story of a portrait that ages instead of the person featured in it. Was novella in 1890, a novel in 1891, a movie in 1945, but it was never done for the stage until 2020, as far as I know, certainly not this version. And I guess I just wonder, if you can take us back to, I think it's right around the time Succession's coming to an end, and you would have been entitled to go on vacation, but instead you did this, and you were already pregnant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So take us into the process, thought process.
Well, Kip and I had a conversation about this maybe in, I want to say March or late February 2023. It was just before I was about to go and shoot the final scenes in Barbados for season 4 of Succession. And so it was, it's amazing to go like, oh, well, this is an amazing thing that's about to end. Here is something else that I could go on to. The question, first of all, was, what's the earliest you think you could do this? We have a theatre we're looking at in August. I was like, I have a baby that I'm currently cooking. She's due in April. And so there's no way I could make August work. The earliest I could do it is like this time next year, and so they accommodated that. I had heard of the show in Australia. It's an amazing show to be a part of, and so it kind of travels the airwaves about how incredible the thing that Kip has created, and also the two actresses that were doing it, Nikki Shields and Erin Jean Norval, were astounding in it. And I remember hearing about it and going, wish I could see that, or I wish I could have been in that. There's something tantalizing about not ever being able to have sort of experience of it. And so when Kip came to me with it, I was very excited and also very naive about what it was to have a baby, and naive about what it was to do this show.
I was going to say, can we just, for anyone who hasn't gotten the memo, 26 characters. You're used to fast dialogue between Sorkin with Steve Jobs and Succession and other things, but fast dialogue while also literally running from one character to the other is different.
It's different, and it's Oscar Wilde. It's prose that has been turned into dialogue, and it's prose that it has to be spoken in a way that the audience can receive it, to understand it, to be engaged with it, finding places to be incredibly swift with it because we need to be moving on and get the audience leaning forward, and then allow them to sort of, in terms of pacing, sit back for a second and enjoy the pretty pictures. It's been an incredible challenge and a huge reward because of that challenge. I think having a ironically, having a baby doing this show was maybe the good choice, because it means that you're very straight and narrow. You're not going out after the show to like go have a drink or wind down or like, oh, this crew is really great. I love these people. I want to hang out with them. It's like, no, I got to go breastfeed in 2 hours. So I'm going to try and get another hour and a half sleep now. Wake up and I'll feed, and then I'll go back to sleep.
Louis, I guess it's not polite to talk about people's ages, but I have to. You're 21. This is your first professional stage production, right? Between London and the U.S. What was going on in your life when you first heard about it? Were you already a watcher of Stranger Things?
Yeah.
And just, what was the actual, take us through the process of winding up playing this character in what is essentially a prequel, right, to season 4, the most recent season of the show.
Yeah, back then I was just moving out of Dublin. I just finished my screen acting course where I did 9 months, just chilling down there. And my dad and I just finished up doing our little YouTube channel, which is how they kind of got wind of me, and how my agent kind of got me as well, and how a lot of things happened was my dad's a screenwriter. And we just made YouTube monologues because we were like, what the fuck do we do? Like, how do you get yourself out there? Don't wait on the phone to ring. And so we were just finishing up that, and I was finishing up season 3 of Hope Street, which was the soap I did. Very lucky to, be able to fail so many times and, learn all about cameras and rigging and, all the different departments and how to work in a workplace and how to do that right, because that's also a talent in itself. And, don't be a dick. And
I'm writing this down.
It's a good
you guys all know this, professionals, right? No, and then I got wind of this, and the audition was just, untitled Netflix play directed by Stephen Daldry, and you had all the cover names, and I had no idea what was going on. And I did like 3 to 4 months of auditions, and I was flying back to London, back to Belfast. And people were telling me, no, you can't be there, you got to do this instead and all that. And it was a big whirlwind. And finally we got it, and got word that it was Henry Creel. And all my focus then just turned on Jamie Campbell-Bower and his performance in season 4, because I think he's phenomenal. Before all this, I loved season 4 and I loved his performances. He just has something else. He has that magic. He has that charm, that charisma that we all try to do every single night. Something that makes us the X Factor. Something where people go, that's good, and he had that. And that was really believable, and I wanted to emulate that, but also create my own line of Henry Creel. It literally took the year in London to get to where I'm at, to where I can talk about it more, and I can understand what's actually happening on stage, not just being like, yeah, in Act 1 I'm a good kid, and in Act 2 I'm a psychopath. It's like
Spoiler alert. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, having that path and seeing it and being able to change it every night and finding a lot of love in it. And but just while I have the floor, I just wanted to say, I think you're all phenomenal, and you all are daily able to access that magic that I'm just kind of getting, like, the pop quiz about. I don't know what's happening, but it's beautiful. I'm getting to learn it, and just you and your story really wowed me and kind of grounded me and reminded me that when I was in school, and like I'm a small guy, so it's like you get picked on for that shit. And and then through acting I was able to do something else that wasn't cliques or girlfriends or all that. But that just kicked my memory back to when I was like 15. And I just wanted to say that there's a lot of love there for you.
I loved your story too.
Yeah.
Get on in. The water's warm.
We are talking here almost 10 years to the day since the opening of a little show on Broadway called Hamilton, which Mr. Groff here was helped to bring to life. And so it's great to have you here to talk about, first of all, happy anniversary, and I believe you guys will be reuniting on the Tonys doing something cool. We don't know much yet. But one of the things that Hamilton, certainly it didn't invent, but it helped to bring to the forefront of the conversation, was this idea, which Audra referenced earlier, of some people call it colorblind casting. I think non-traditional casting is another word that is sometimes preferred. But I guess I wonder, 10 years later, Jonathan, first of all, what do you believe has been the enduring impact of Hamilton?
Lin-Manuel Miranda's a fucking genius and wrote an unparalleled work of art. And I replaced Brian Darcy James in the show off Broadway at the Public Theater, so he originated the role of the king. And so I got this really interesting experience with the show because I always felt outside of it and inside of it at the same time. And Lin, we'd met as friends when I was doing Spring Awakening and he was doing In the Heights, and had stayed in touch. And then Brian had to leave and he texted me, "What are you doing next month? Can you come be in the show that I wrote for a couple months off Broadway?" And I was like, sure. And I went on a Friday and was in the show on Tuesday. I got back into town on a Friday and I saw it and I was like, oh my God. This is like one of the great, I mean, we all had that experience seeing it. And then to be inside of it, and I would watch the show, because the king is only on stage for 9 minutes, so I would stand in the VOM at the Public Theater, or when we moved to Broadway to the Richard Rodgers, I would stand in the box and peek through the curtain in my king outfit, watching the show. And one of the, I would watch it all the time, and the way that Lin, it was like he could feel the audience just as they were going here. Boom! It was like a different tone. Boom! It was like he's so, I think because he's also such a brilliant performer. He has such an awareness of storytelling and audience, and he knew how to keep everyone's attention for 2.5, 3 hours. And he kept everybody on the edge of their seats. And it's just, even when like I'm listening to the mashup that we're doing on the Tonys, I'm like, oh my God, Hamilton is so good. Listening to all the songs together, it just like, now it's sort of been around for a decade and you're like, oh yeah, it's Hamilton. It's the poster and send all your friends to see it and whatever. But every time I re-engage with the material or hear it again, it's just pure genius. And I think, the whole creative team and all of the producers and the original company that made it happen are all a huge part of that. But for me, it's the genius of Lin-Manuel Miranda that stays with us.
So you're doing a mashup on the
So
that's what we heard. This is explicit you just dropped.
I want to focus for a moment on that non-traditional casting aspect also. And Audra, of course, you are the first of, I think there have been 6 now Broadway incarnations of Gypsy. You are the first person of color to ever play Rose. That has, as you've been asked about and I'm sure read about it, there's been all kinds of opining one way or the other just about this is people are having a hard time wrapping their mind around in some cases, and then they see you and literally in one case change their public position about that. My question though is, you've been in a way navigating this your whole life, or at least since you were 16, and played, I think in your first theatrical production anywhere, Eva Peron in Evita. You also, you got your first sizable part on Broadway and first Tony nomination in Carousel in a part that had been traditionally played by white people. Please tell us, if you can, just what, throughout your life, just hearing hearing these conversations, thinking about it, what, and now, literally every day except Monday, kind of, experiencing it with Rose. Just take us into your experience with the idea of non-traditional casting.
Well, I think for me, I was very lucky growing up in Fresno, California, and having 2 parents who needed something for their very hyperactive, over-emotional, over-dramatic child who was struggling, struggling deeply. They found this dinner theater for me, and I went and auditioned and became a part of the little junior troupe. And once I was a part of that troupe, like when all of us kind of find theater, it's like, oh, here I am. I know who I am now, or I know that there are a lot of people like me, whether we know who we are or not. But in that theater, in Fresno, California, which is still it's a very conservative place. I had at one point been cast to play the servant girl in Miracle Worker. And I just ran out and auditioned for it and got the part, and my parents said, absolutely not. You will not be playing that part. sure it's a fine part, but we don't need to have you out there perpetuating stereotypes. There are other roles for you. And because they said that to me at such an early age in my life, they taught me to not say no to myself. Did I just do too many negatives there? I do that all the time. So from then on, it was like, what role do you think you can play? And make them say no to you. And well, do you feel like you can sing it, or do you feel like you understand who this character is, or do you, whatever. So I got that from my parents at a very, very early age. And so when the call came to audition for Carousel, besides the fact that I passed out at my final audition, and I
Literally.
just absolutely I literally passed out and thought I had blown it and whatever. I think that also helped with me as an actor and an artist too. I'm trying to find who this person is, not what they look like, and that's a part of it. But who are they? And is there something in my soul that can help illuminate who that character is? And that's what I feel about what's happened with Rose. And it's very similar to what we were talking about before, where I used to judge Rose. Thought she was a terrible monster, and then I started to play her. And you realize you have to defend your character, right? You have to defend the person you're playing. With all of us, we do. It's Norma too. You have to be able to defend this person. And now I absolutely adore her, and I weep for her, and I want her to succeed. And these are, again, all very human things. And the main thing with me playing Rose as a Black woman is we are not shrinking away from that. We have not changed a single line. We have not changed any of the grammar. A lot of people come to this show and say, oh, well, Rose is saying, and that ain't this, and that ain't that, and da-da-da. I'm like, that's what Arthur Lawrence wrote, So, and I feel like I just knew who she was, and why couldn't it be a Black woman's story? Why couldn't it be, an Asian woman's story? It could be anybody's story, especially a single mother with 2 children in the 20s, having this idea and this dream and this hope, and everyone's saying no to her, but she knows that she is not going to let her children go down the same road that she did. Why couldn't that's human condition, right?
Cole, you're a bit of a trailblazer yourself. We have in the Tonys in the last few years, there have been a couple of non-binary performers who have been recognized, but this is not, there's not like decades of history of this either. And I am curious what your feelings are about something that's being discussed in the theater community and in Hollywood. Some of the less high-profile award shows, meaning relative only to the Oscars, the Emmys, the Tonys, have adopted what they call, I guess, gender-neutral awards. So you have Best Leading Performance, Best Supporting Performance, instead of Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. That is not yet the case, obviously, at the Tonys. You, I think, had to weigh in on which category you would want to be eligible for. You are nominated again as Best Actor in a play. But how did you feel about having to make a call? Is that something that you hope changes, or is that acceptable to you?
I do hope it changes. Yeah, I didn't love having to make that choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there are arguments for, women are given, so little, like that would take more away from them. But, I think the Drama Desk's last year Best Performer went to Sarah Paulson and Jessica Lange. No men won. I think the same thing in the Supporting Actor category. So I don't know. It's such a weird, it's almost arbitrary, because a man couldn't play this same role that a woman can play, and it's like, well, an 80-year-old couldn't play, well, I shouldn't say that. An 80-year-old could play Juliet, but where the lines are drawn, I guess it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You know, Best Director is gender neutral.
Every other category.
Every other category. But
Makes
yeah.
for a shorter night.
It makes for a shorter night. It makes for a shorter night. I don't know, but I also, yeah, I don't want to, I just want to do my show and be myself, and I don't want to push people's buttons or, well, that's not true. I do want to push people's buttons, but not those buttons.
Well, another kind of topic of conversation in the community at the moment is the increasing and kind of cool and different role that technology is playing in so many of these productions. I mean, Sarah and Nicole have camera rigs on stage with large screens that are giving us a look into things that people never would have been able to see on Broadway until a few years ago. Maybe Network and a few of these other shows kind of open the door to it. Louis, some of the effects are unbelievable, and probably pre Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which I think some of the same people worked on your show, and they're getting a special Tony for it. Like, these are things that were not possible just a few years ago in the way that they are in your shows, and they're also, I think we should underline, not just to show off that you can do it. They actually help to tell the stories and connect them to the present moment. That, you know, Sunset Boulevard was a movie in 1950. We were talking about Dorian Gray in the end of the 19th century, and yet, in ways that I don't want to risk spoiling, but you guys, I think they really do connect it for especially younger audiences. The technology helps to connect it to the world of today. Wouldn't you say, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, technology is always going to advance. That's just what humans do. We make things, we create things, we invent things, and we find ways to incorporate them into our lives. And I think, you know, we've always had theatre. It's an ancient art form, and so inevitably you're going to incorporate technological sort of advancements into theatre in some ways. And as long as it has a dramaturgical purpose and a active influence on the audience, I think there's a place for it. I think it's been really great to work in, I mean, this show wouldn't be possible without the camera work that the camera people do, and also the video that we've created beforehand. And it's amazing to work inside of that. I don't think it's probably relevant for every single show, and it probably won't be in every single show. It doesn't need to be. But in this one particularly, dramaturgically, it sticks. It's really,
Totally.
important.
And filters and other kinds of cool things come in as well. Nicole, how did you like and adapt to working with people with cameras running around near you on stage and things like that? I mean, that's not, I can't imagine you've encountered that much before on the stage specifically, although, except singing, I guess. Mm-hmm. Were you ready for, like, was it a big acclamation?
Well, I didn't have a choice. I've never seen, other than some of the press pics that have gone out, I've never seen anything from the show. Our director doesn't want me to see anything, and I think that is really smart of him because I've never seen myself on the camera, and I probably pick myself to pieces, and so it's good. I guess it makes sense, obviously, because Norma is a film star, that he incorporated that, and obviously we don't have a set or props or anything. So we're able to just tell that story on stage, and then to be a little bit more intimate when the camera is involved. But yeah, I as a pop star, this is my good side. I'm sitting on my bad side today. I've had to throw all that down the drain. I'll never forget when Jamie introduced the cameras for Salome, and I was like, I need to go on that side of the stage. So I start, because if you want greatness, or do you want mediocre? But then I should have never opened my mouth, because then he always put the camera on this side, and there's just so many things that I've just, like I said, I had to leave everything out the door, and just he's taken me out of my comfort zone, and it's what's got me here today. And so, yeah, it is a lot, and I'm just saying I'm happy that I've never seen anything, and I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to see it from the outside. It's supposed to emanate from within anyway.
We have unbelievable physicality demanded from all of you in these roles. I think, Audra, you've said you've never had a more exhausting part. We've established some of the crazy things that are asked of Sarah and Jonathan, everybody here. Darren, I don't know how I said to you earlier today, I don't know how you don't need a chiropractor walking around with you all day, the posture and things that you have to.
Yeah, let me know.
I have several good ones.
I gotta ask people.
What is the thing you do for yourself physically that you cannot give up after between shows?
I've never said this out loud because it wasn't like exactly a secret or anything, but I'm really militant about contrast therapy.
What's that?
Just like it's this, ancient Norwegian stuff. Just I will.
Oh, sure.
I will do. I'm just not Norwegian. It's like Scandinavian. It's being in a hot bath and cold plunge. Like I'll do a sauna, steam.
Wow.
I'm pretty militant about this. I do this like 2-3 times a week for about a half
sauna
hour.
in your dressing
I
room?
do not. I wish I
And
did.
a cold plunge?
No, I'll go to like some kind of place that has a sauna, and then I'll do a steam room for 15 minutes, and I'll do a cold plunge for 3 minutes, a sauna for 15. I'll do it in between shows. I'll like run, and it's a meditative thing.
Wow.
I think
a
it's
reset
good for
in
my.
the-
It's a reset.
Yeah.
It's my 10 minutes of just relaxing. I feel like I'm on a beach. I close my eyes and just drown out the world. It's good for my respiratory system, my circulatory system. It's good for my immune system, and that is how I keep my battery
I would
charged.
never come to the second show.
Yeah. Well, it's that cold
Yeah.
plunge at the end.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in
Wakes you
like
up.
45-degree water for like 3 minutes. And I'm like, all right, let's go. We got another one.
Any other secrets?
For me, just sleep.
Sleep.
I think it's
Yeah,
so
the
important.
mother of
Yeah.
all recovery.
It's so you gotta have. I mean, for me, I need 8 hours.
Yeah.
Between shows?
Yeah, it's contractual. No, but I do try and take a 20-minute meditation sleep. But sleep, you gotta have the
course.
deep sleep recovery because it heals your body.
That's how I feel too, because I have to tell myself it's a new day, it's a new performance. It's like you have to start all over again. Like
Yeah.
this performance has to be just as good, if not stronger.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's reminding me of that Ethel Merman quote of, like warm up, that's what the opening number's for. I can't rest between shows because then
I
I
can't
wouldn't
either.
get up.
Yeah, vocally.
Yeah.
Other shows I've been able to, but I can't sleep in between with this
Wow.
one
Yeah.
because the recovery from Rose's turn, especially
You would
since
have
our
that,
show
yeah.
is like basically 3 hours.
Yeah.
So like especially on a Wednesday matinee, we've got a 2 and a 7:30. That I only have enough time to just sort of like do PT and then sit down for a few minutes and stare at a wall. But
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
start it
That
up
wall
again.
stare.
Yeah.
You all move back and forth between screen and stage work. When you make when you go from something on the stage to something on the screen or vice versa, what is the thing that you most consciously have to remember to do differently?
I don't, and that's why I always get told on set, like, just less.
Yeah.
Just ground it. Ground it.
Think loud.
Think
Yeah.
like,
Think louder.
what do you interpret that? What does that mean?
That the camera, once I figured out that the camera was the audience,
Yeah.
I used to be so afraid of the camera. Once I figured out that the camera is the audience, and I think you get that experience, but especially when you're doing a series, where it's just like you're day 1 million, hour 1 million. And once I figured that out, I realized that I could just still have all of my wants and verbs and all of that and what the character wants, but I could think it louder.
It'll come across.
And the camera will pick it up.
I gotta write that down.
I swear I was like, I'm taking that.
I think the possibilities are higher in theater. I get excited about it. I don't know if I speak for everybody here, but I feel like what I'm allowed to do on the theater, and I have to remark on this because it was brought up, and I've sort of been embargoing this thought. I know we have to wrap up. But as far as what we're all getting to do, first of all, the eclecticism and variety of people at this table is because we're all doing theater shows. If any one of us were doing what we're doing as a film, it'd be a slightly different conversation. And I love, we're talking about like the part of our souls that can add to these things. If you were doing a film of Gypsy, it'd be different. It's like a weirder conversation, but the theater allows for this kind of storytelling that is much more wide open and allows us to be additive to that, we have a boy from a Gen Z from Belfast who's playing an American. We have, would you say, Czech, Filipino, Hawaiian girl playing a Norma Desmond part. We have a non-binary person that is playing Mary Todd Lincoln, an Australian who's playing a man and several other men. Jonathan Groff, like, a good old gay farm boy from Pennsylvania playing Bobby Darren, a black girl from Fresno, and like a white passing Asian American as a robot. Like, what the fuck is going on here? That's incredible. That's like. How does that? That's something to be celebrated. I mean, that's amazing that we're all here at this table getting to play the things we do, and I think that's because of what the theater can allow for. So there's like a possibility that I think of when I'm working the theater that I have to put a lid on when I'm doing film and television.
I'm glad you said that. That was great, and it also
so glad I got to say it. It's been burning up in me this whole time.
Darren told me a story earlier, which I need to ask you to tee up for you.
Much.
No. This is really this is great. Where there is a sense of like people know you from maybe one but not the other, and there's an element of surprise. Darren, can you just quickly?
I'll say this quickly and I'll shut up. I'm sorry. I know I'm so talkative. I was saying how it's funny when people see anything that you've done. There's no placard. There are people who are seeing you that don't know the Pussycat Dolls. People that didn't watch Succession or anything. There's no like prerequisite for you to know anything about the person's career. I'll never forget. I saw this queen. A long time ago, you were doing a concert at Reprise Theater. It was one of your shows in Los Angeles, and I went with a friend, and it was a beautiful cabaret show. And there was a woman next to me who loved Private Practice, and I remember talking. I was saying, we were just small talking before you went on, and I was saying, I was mentioning Ragtime and all these shows that I've always loved your performances in. And she's like, I didn't really know she was a singer. And I'm sitting there going like, well, you best buckle up, honey. You're about to get served some serious fucking shit.
I still get that.
Yeah, exactly. And I just was so moved by that because, like, again, there's no prerequisite here. Great, cool. Her gateway drug is Private Practice. Great, we take all kinds. Like, that's great. We're happy to have you. But I thought that was so fun. I'll never forget it. Being like, she really just loved that show. And maybe I'll check her out. I think she's singing a little concert down the street.
No, it's true. I mean, it's a great thing too. Just how theater can open when people come in. What I love about what we do is people who maybe don't come to see theater as a rule, but for some reason. I love Nicole from Pussycat Dolls, so I'm coming to see her, or or all of you for whatever, for Succession or whatever. They come, and my hope and desire, and usually it happens, is people get bit by the theater bug. They get a taste, and then they want more and more and more and more, and that's what I love.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna zoom through these last few. These are quicker, or you could just say a name.
I'll just go.
Excluding family, who's the person whose attendance at one of your performances has meant the most to you? The performances of this show.
Elaine May.
Elaine May. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, steal that as well.
Tom Hanks as well. He's getting around. All right.
Bette Midler.
Bette Midler. Wow. Cool.
Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Wow.
Glenn Close or Oprah.
That's pretty cool. Those are cool ones.
Nice.
Oprah was thrilled enough with yours that she got the blood all over. I saw when she took the photo.
So
Okay.
cool.
There's a
The
story
most
behind
unusual thing in your dressing room.
Me.
Anything? Anybody?
beat that.
Dried lavender that I've yet to buy a vase for.
Yep.
I've got a little crochet doll of the characters of Dorian and a character from Jane, Predestination, and then my Met Gala outfit, which this incredibly talented young woman crocheted, and I'm sitting up there and I love them. So does my daughter. She wants to play with them.
Great. That's great.
You've given me
Most
something
annoying
so
thing that
talented.
audiences, or at least some members thereof, are doing in 2025 at Broadway shows.
Well, I would say, I don't get particularly annoyed by it because I know the impetus, like I know that the impulse is there. But I do just want to make a PSA, like public service announcement, that we can see your phones when they're up. Even
You
when
have a
you're
spotlight.
holding them here. It's a reflective surface reflecting back onto the stage. We can see you filming.
They're so
And we can't do anything about phones. It is what it is. But at curtain call, it's almost like no one's applauding anymore because they're all filming. And that's the weirdest thing to me. It's like, well, then we'll just go. It's a very strange thing that when you
Because
come
they trying
out
to
to
catch that legacy, honey.
Yeah,
They got to get it.
But it's it's an interesting thing. You're just sort of like,
Lastly, guys, if you could
Also, we can hear you eating.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Well, we
rapper
can see
crinkling.
it. I think
hear
that's
you.
the
Yeah.
bottom
Yeah,
line.
yeah,
When
we
people are in the
see
audience, they're like, well, they're there, they can't see. It's like, you're all I see. That's literally,
Yeah.
I look out,
Sometimes-
like you're not invisible.
But sometimes with the wrestling, I'm like, did you get it? Did you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it?
I just hate it when they don't like the show.
Well, that's fair.
I really,
Yeah,
that
it's really
bothers me.
not.
Well, I love you said people come thinking they're seeing a biopic sometimes.
That has stopped mostly,
Okay, good.
but in the very beginning, people we would just hear boom, boom, boom. People
waving
leaving.
chairs.
Like, yeah. No, I loved it. I was like, good, we got him.
Lastly, guys, if you could snap your fingers and make it so, what would be the ideal number of performances you would perform per week?
That is a great question.
that is a really good question.
Do you get to decide when
Yes,
they are?
which ones? Yeah, which ones are gone?
Wednesday matinee's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 7's good.
So okay.
Seven.
Seven.
At least.
But I will say,
double.
Six.
You said you would do
I
double.
do
It's on the table. I do
Oh,
that.
you do?
It's a good stretch. We do the 4 on Saturday and Sunday. So we don't have a Wednesday matinee.
Because you
You
do
do
that
two
5
Saturdays.
show
Five show
weekend.
weekend.
Yeah. So
He's
they just-
young.
they
Yeah.
just say,
I-
go, he's 21. Put him through it.
Yeah.
I will
yeah.
say the Sunday matinee is not something that exists in London, but it's fantastic. here.
Delightful.
It's fantastic.
then
You
you
get a
have your
spare
night.
night.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'd say 6 would be lush.
There you go.
Like, you could just do it forever then.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the sacrifice of doing. I believe everybody here is 8 a week, and we are. Thank you for all the great work. Thank you for being here.
That's the coolest
And-
part, is that we all do our shows. All these
At
other
the same
roundtables
ti-
for all those other awards, everybody's done.
That's right.
They've wrapped. They made the record a year ago. They put the thing in the can. It's done. All of us
Are so
are
tired.
so tired.
We're exhausted.
Exactly. But it's
well-
cool that we all can say break a leg.
And
Please
so
know that.
fulfilled. We're
That's
so
pretty cool.
It is
fulfilled.
appreciated
pride,
and,
isn't it? Yeah, it's rad.
by the audiences, but also by us and me. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you, man. Yeah.